everyone, and welcome back. If this is your first time, I hope you'll stay. Espero que te quedes. So today I wanted to cover this topic because yesterday a student of mine said, I can't help but translate in my head. How do I stop doing that? And so I thought, well, I'm going to do a video today to cover that, because I think as a language learner, this is something that we all struggle with from time to time. I don't think it's something that anyone just knows how to do from the get-go. It takes time. Okay, so I'm going to say as well, if you see I keep looking down, it's because I've made some notes on my notepad. I always forget something that I have to say. I always do. And even though I've got them written down, I will still forget something because that's the way my head works. La cabeza la tengo por todas partes. Okay, so right. A lot of times you will hear teachers say to you, forget your mother tongue. Okay, don't think in your mother tongue. You have to think in the target language that you're learning. I, on the other hand, think this is a mistake. I don't think you can disregard your mother tongue. I think you need it, or at least certainly in the beginning, you need it as reference. When you start learning the basics and you have no idea, obviously you need to go back and say, oh, well, how do I say that in English? To be able to do it in your target language. So I would say keep your mother tongue in mind until you are sort of at intermediate to advanced level. Okay, that's the advice I give. In fact, I never say to my students who are in lower school to think only in Spanish, because I don't feel as though you can do that from the very beginning. Now, if you're in higher and you're hoping to study Spanish later on, you will be at a level where you'll sort of feel, well, I need to sound more native-like, and how do I do that? Okay, so to sound more native-like, and it is in that sentence, you need to surround yourself with native people. You do. Okay, so I don't know where you live and how you do it, but this is something that you have to make objective. You have to make it an objective, and so find Spanish friends, find people who speak in Spanish, and it's not people only who are going to talk to you. I find what's even more important is when I listen to Spanish speakers speaking to each other. Why do I think this is important? Well, I was thinking what I do in English actually, because I'm from Wiltshire. And there are certain expressions that we use in the West Country, in Wiltshire, that perhaps they don't use in other parts of the country. And so I wouldn't use those expressions with somebody who doesn't come from that part of the country. And I most certainly would not use these expressions with a foreign person, because I just think, well, they won't understand it anyways. And when you're speaking, I feel as though it needs to be inclusive and you need to make sure everyone understands. Okay, and I feel as though foreign people do that when they're speaking to you, knowing that you're English. So listen to them speak to each other. I feel as though that you'll pick up a lot of little things that perhaps are not taught, okay, or that you won't learn from direct conversation with a Spanish person. Okay, or a German person, whatever. You know, I remember learning German and my teacher said to me, you know, you need to think more German. And I thought, well, I don't know any German people. And so I just found that a real challenge. And I also thought I didn't have enough level. I didn't have a high enough level to start doing that. So I honestly believe that you have to get the base first of a language, then you start thinking like that, like people from that place. Okay, so surround yourself, get to know the culture, because it's not just imitating, and I always stress imitation, but it's not just about imitating the way people sound. I feel as though it's imitating things like gestures, okay? Spanish people use their hands a lot. They have a lot of facial expressions. You have to study these things. These are the little things that make what we call that Spanishness, you know. So you need to study these things as well. What do they do culturally that perhaps we don't do? Touching that, if you've noticed, the more languages you speak, when you're speaking each and every language, your personality changes. Let me know if you notice that. Maybe your gestures will change when you're talking in Spanish as opposed to when you're talking in German or when you're talking in your own mother tongue. Okay, why is this? These are things that we do in each different culture. You learned them. Okay, this is from imitation. And I feel as though this is one of the points that you need to not forget when you're talking about expressing yourself, not translating literally. You need to become like the native speakers. Okay, so imitation, not just words, expressions as well, body language. These are all a part of the game. Okay. Number 2. I think we tend to rely too much on translators. Okay, if you're reading a text or you've heard something, by listening, obviously by listening if you heard it, if you're doing a listening or you're doing a writing, your first thought is, let me look that up really quickly. Okay, we need to stop doing that. Okay, we need to stop doing that because we're relying on that calculator. You know, or maybe it's a walking calculator, you know. I always call myself a walking calculator because when I'm in class, students do this a lot. Miss, what does this mean? Think, read the text and try to figure it out on your own. Okay. You will start noticing patterns when you don't jump to the translator. Okay, you need to start thinking, oh, well, how can I connect the dots? What could it possibly mean? So the context, what might it mean? And you have to start trusting your instincts, okay? One of the most important things about learning a language is trusting that you are learning and you are learning how to connect the ideas and the patterns and figuring out meanings from things, okay? So don't be so quick to ask someone and jump to the calculator. Reread, okay, rethink. What did the word before mean? Okay, right. Okay, okay, just you're not supposed to do just what is expected of you. Okay, obviously, if you're learning language, you will be expected to do the grammar. You'll be expected to do your homework. You'll be expected to do the exercises, and that is all good. Okay, that's all fantastic. However, if you want to become more Spanish thinking, you want to be more like a native, you need to do what native people do. So what do native people do? What do you do in English? How did you learn English? Okay, you did activities. You went to the theatre, you heard the language while you were enjoying yourself, okay? So entertainment, okay? Go to the theatre, go to see a play, a musical, go to the cinema. Okay, lots of things you can be doing. I did a lot of soaps and I also did interviews because I found interviews were incredibly easy to follow, dialogues incredibly easy to follow. So try doing things like that. Okay, there was a restaurant in Bath when I was growing up. And I used to go to the restaurant all the time just so I could hear Spanish. It was a Spanish restaurant. Obviously, I didn't have a lot of money at that time, but I used to go just so I could order food in Spanish. Who does that? I feel as though these little things help, okay? And also, I used to love to listen to the waiters talking to each other in Spanish. That's very important. If you can't get to Spain, look in your area. How can you use the people around you? That's an example. So I'm giving that to you because I felt that helped me a lot. Okay? And obviously I used to listen to people. If I heard anyone in my town speaking Spanish, I'd introduce myself. I come from a very small town, so it wasn't strange there at all. Expect if you live in a bigger town, it would probably be it wouldn't be the same, perhaps. Okay, and first of all, I would like to give a massive shout out to my teacher at University Javier, because he was a little bit extravagant, and I remember he used to say to us, you know, talk to yourself, talk to the mirror, and we used to think, oh, it's crazy, talk to yourself. But it worked, okay? Because it means that it meant that you were always using Spanish. You were starting to think in Spanish. If you find yourself finding a situation and having to have a dialogue in your head with two people, okay, a conversation, try that, okay? I'll be the shopkeeper and you'll be the shop assistant. Have that conversation in your head, okay? Talk to yourself aloud if there's nobody there. Okay, these sort of things. And obviously when you make mistakes, you're talking out loud, you will start to spot those mistakes by yourself as well. It will help, okay? Write the dialogues down as well if you want to practice, if you don't feel as confident in the beginning, okay? The next point I would say is every day, sin falta, no excuse at all. You need to make sure that you're immersed in Spanish. You need to be doing something. It's listening, speaking, but it needs to be something where you're hearing real Spanish being spoken. Okay? Okay. Another point I find very, very important is keeping connected with young people. Young people are just the prime example of change in language, how language is always changing and developing. And they teach you so much in terms of slang instead of just a modern way of talking. You grow with them linguistically. So I found that very useful, okay? Right, I got this book from a book fair when I came to Spain on my second visit. They have these massive book fairs, I love them. And it was all about jargon and colloquial Spanish. I still have that book, actually, I think it's in my mom's attic somewhere. But that book helped me so much because it taught you about all these fantastic expressions that you hear every day in Spanish and where they came from. So I also feel as though this is fundamental to understand about the history of the language and why people use certain expressions in certain areas and where these came from. What's the story behind them? Okay, right. Next one. Said imitation, yes. Don't forget imitation. Don't sleep on that one. Okay. Investing your time in the Spanishness. We're always talking about the Spanishness. Okay. There's an essence. When you talk about Spanish language, culture, there's a Spanishness in that, okay? Research that. What makes Spanish so Spanish? And it is imitating what you see. Watch typical movies. You know, look at your movie list, your film list that you get. Javier. I'm going to stick a director's name down here. We did quite a lot of Javier. I'm going to stick a list of movies that you can watch that I watched, and it was on our list at school. Okay, and I think that is it. Okay, I think that is it. Okay, to stop translating in your head, you have to get out of that thinking that, okay, I'm going to look up every word. You have to be aware of these expressions. That's another Spanishness, expressions, okay? It's not always word for word. You can't always translate everything. You have to learn from context, okay? You have to listen to people speak to each other constantly. I feel as though that's the most important one. Listen to the way they speak to each other. How is it different? What expressions do they use? Okay, what gestures do they use? What do they mean? How are they different? Okay, what do they do in Spanish that we don't do in English? Or in England rather, or in your country? Why is that? Okay? When they do, I did a video last week about Spanish expressions and what they mean. Why do they do certain things? Okay, all of these will help you understand the language more because you understand the culture, and I feel as though this will help you to not translate as much in your head. Okay, but you have to get a good level first. So do lots of reading, do lots of listening. Listening to Spanish speakers, real Spanish speakers, more than you actually speaking to them, it's them speaking to each other. Okay, find something that you love on the telly, theatre, a film, find something, listen to it. Okay, you have to immerse yourself completely, you really do. Okay, and don't think, oh well, yeah, in English, you know, we'd say it like this. No, there's certain things that have no translations. There's no translation to that. So you have to get that in your mind. Not everything is translatable, okay? You will get lost in translation otherwise, you know? So it's being open to the thought that there's some things that just cannot be translated, and you have to learn it by just immersing yourself in the language, by surrounding yourself with Spanish people, with Spanish resources, Spanish TV, Spanish radio, listening to dialogue, having dialogues with yourself, okay, talking to yourself like a crazy person, like my teacher Javier taught us at university. Okay, so I feel as though this is all I have for you today. Let me know how you're getting on with translating in your head. Is it still an issue? Let me know. I would love to hear. And until next time, guys, I'm going to leave it right here, and I hope to see you soon. Okay? Hasta pronto. Adios.